Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. I'm your host, Josh, and today we have a very special returning guest on. His name's Iain. He's from the UK. Iain was on previously to chat all about the early release in the UK for the Star Wars Force Collector book that came out, I believe it was in November or something like that, or October. And, I was looking forward to having him on again because he stays on top of all the literature, and he's very familiar with everything that goes on between the films, and I wanted to get together with him over the holoprojector and chat about the stories that take place between episode 8 and 9, some of the events that transpire that are relevant. So let's give him a call over the holoprojector here.
Right, pretty good.
Yeah, how's the last week been for you? It's pretty good?
Not too bad. Just waiting for Star Wars on Thursday.
Oh man, just around the corner too. It's like it's crazy. What a time though. I mean, we like every week we've been getting a new episode from Mandalorian and all these books and stuff that have been coming out, and then now the new movie. So yeah,
great,
pretty exciting. Yeah. So you've been keeping pretty on top of all the stuff, right? Like all the new material.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like what I wanted to do with you today is just like basically cover all the different stories that might lead into Rise of Skywalker that people might find relevant and semi interesting to just hear the short story basically. But a while ago we chatted about Force Collector, which is great. But I still haven't. That's the only one of the few things I actually haven't read still that lead into the movie. But if you were to take like just a few elements from that book that might be useful, like basically like what are the characters like in that novel, and when does it take place, and what like few things might play a part in that new film that's coming out.
Yeah, so basically Force Collector takes place the same year as The Force Awakens, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's roughly the same year. It's before The Force Awakens, but the same year. And it's a story about a young boy who has the gift of psychometry, which is the same gift that Quinlan Vos had. And he goes around the galaxy finding artifacts that are prevalent to the Jedi. And he obviously touches these objects and sees visions of the whole Skywalker saga. So it's basically just walking you through the Skywalker saga through the eyes of this young boy. And at the end of the book, he meets his grandfather, or great-grandfather, I believe, who was an Order 66 survivor. He's really old, this old Jedi. I can't remember his name. The name escapes me at the moment.
Yeah.
But he meets him. Obviously, they have their talk about things, and then he goes away from his grandfather, and that's where the book ends, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I may have asked you last time we chatted, but was there any because he has the ability of psychometry, and so there's obviously a lot of material like objects that he touches maybe and stuff. Like, was there anything that kind of resonated with you that could possibly make an appearance in the new film, or anything that we've seen before?
It shocked me how much there was actually from like the wider aspects. It wasn't just the films. He tracked down Cypher Diaz's shuttle on the Clone Wars episode and touched and found a comlink which basically laid out the whole I created the clone army, I believe, that this is important because the Republic's going to come under threat from dark forces and all that type of thing. So he saw that, which really surprised me because I didn't think they'd go into like Clone Wars and all that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think back some of the stuff he saw. He touches the Millennium Falcon. He goes to Jakku and finds the Millennium Falcon, and that teaches him.
Oh, okay.
He sees the scene with Luke training with the remote in A New Hope. He sees that scene,
Oh wow. Yeah.
through a different vision, and he sees that, which is pretty cool.
So then he's on. Yeah. So he must be on. I guess he's on Jakku before the Force Awakens starts, right?
Yeah. He goes to see Unkar Plutt because obviously apparently Unkar Plutt's like a junk dealer, and he might have something. But obviously he meets Unkar Plutt.
Yeah.
Finds out he's a bit of a.
That makes sense. Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah. And so it's set before the Force Awakens. He's on Jakku. They go all sorts of places. They go to Jakku. They go to Obadiah, which is the Pike home world.
Yep.
And they go. It's quite a hop around the galaxy, like.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember you telling me about the Cypher connection there, and that was super cool. But yeah, no, he I guess it takes him he goes to Utapau and Takodana as well.
He does, yeah. He does go to Utapau and he goes to Takodana.
Yeah.
It's quite cool. He on Utapau he meets a guy who's claiming that he is a son of a clone trooper.
Okay.
He says his father was a clone trooper, and then he also touches the staff of the pawn who greets Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
He touches his staff. Tion Madon, I think his name is. And he touches his staff, and he sees that interaction with Obi-Wan and that. And that was another like cool little thing. But yeah, they definitely hop around the galaxy.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of because you've played Fallen Order at this point, right?
I played through it twice. I love it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's dedication. Yeah, I know. I was playing on Jedi Knight mode for the longest time, and then I ended up switching to story mode because I just needed to get through the story. I was like, I'm already online. I'm already seeing little things I don't want to see yet, and I haven't reached that point in the story, so I just want to get through it, right? So I ended up switching to story mode and bashing through the story, and now I'm just going back and doing the. I want to try and get 100% of like free play explore, but I think it's not exactly under the banner for Journey to the Rise of Skywalker, but it almost should be because there's like Force Collector, like there's a decent amount of like early on saga connections that really kind of stuck with me quite a bit, right? Like I think the biggest one is kind of a spoiler for people who haven't reached this point of the game, so you maybe tune out for the next couple seconds here. But it does make the connection between Ilum and Starkiller Base. Like I thought that was like a huge thing. I was like, oh my goodness, like huge fan service there.
But that's been the theory, hasn't it? That it is Starkiller Base. So they haven't come out and confirmed it, but it's got to be Starkiller Base at this point, hasn't it? Let's be honest. That game is so good. Like I had to knock it down to story mode to beat Malicos.
Oh yeah, that was really tough. Yeah, I had to do the same thing. I think that's the point where I switched
because I had explored everywhere. So I've done it again. I went through the game again, and I got all the health upgrades and all the stuff, and it was a lot easier then. But the first time I could not beat him. Yeah,
well, it's interesting. By the end of the game, the first time that I ran through. When I reached the end of the story, I still hadn't unlocked all the Force abilities yet. So it was, so it's interesting because I guess it kind of like leaves you to still get those by just on the free roam, just by killing off enemies and stuff here and there, and then still being able to upgrade your guy. But it's a cool game. Like there's that huge like Starkiller Base connection to Ilum that they really hinted at was amazing, and it got me thinking. I really want to see a book come out, kind of like Rogue One Catalyst, that talks about that. Maybe like the project that went into making Ilum into like this massive weapon, which was, I guess, like now we know it was a plan that the Empire had rather than something that the First Order came up with, and it's not this like random snowy planet in the middle of nowhere. It is a location that we've seen before. Like that's the idea that I think I'm getting from seeing like that little cutscene in the game. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it definitely adds a thing as well. Saying, was the Empire building Starkiller Base at the same time it was building the first Death Star?
Mm-hmm, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it makes me wonder, and it makes me wonder as well. Like, I mean, behind the scenes, like if we don't count in-universe reasons, like I'm sure they hadn't even like thought of that, by the time like when Rogue One was coming out and Catalyst was a thing, and Krennic being the director of that project and whatever. I don't think the relationship between Starkiller Base and anything else that we've seen before was really something that came into play. I think back then it was a lot of like fan speculation and rumor to think that, hey, is this Ilum or is this Hoth? Is this a planet that we've seen before? And it's cool to see that years later they've like taken those theories and just, made them into a canonical reason for Starkiller Base to even exist.
Yeah, so, I remember the first theory came from they released a visual dictionary for the Force Awakens, and Starkiller Base is at the same point in the galaxy where Ilum used to be.
Yeah,
that's where it came from. I think that theory, but I love that theory. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
instead of having it just like another generic snowy planet, it actually makes it Ilum, and it
for sure,
so much more history.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it really adds a lot more to the link between Force Awakens and the previous two trilogies because, quite frankly, I mean, like I honestly have. Like in the George saga, like there's so many shared locations, and then the sequel trilogy just feels very disconnected at times, just like with all the new stuff that we get, right? So it can be
a fair comment, yeah.
It can be a little overwhelming, as a pre-existing fan, especially like when we watch those movies and then, we're looking for familiar aliens, even like Rhodians and Twi'leks, and like we didn't get any of that stuff. So it is cool for them to kind of make reasons for these things and actually like connecting the dots, like in what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an R.
I can't think what it is.
But you get the idea.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, connecting the dots, like post fact sort of thing. But anyway, so I guess that's the two of those things. And then, did you end up reading Resistance Reborn by any chance?
I did. Yeah, I did read it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like this one was kind of an interesting one because when I picked it up, I thought there would be a little more than what I finished off reading with. Like it was a great story, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of expecting a little more towards like the new movie, and
to see a few more familiar faces.
Yeah, for sure. I was hoping that it might be similar to what we got with Aftermath, where there might be some interludes here and there that kind of talked about some characters here and there that might show up that have nothing to do with the story that they're telling in that book, but more so shows up because just to explain like where they're at that point in time, because this book does take place after episode 8 very clearly. I would say it's maybe like no later than 2 or 3 months after that movie finishes. Would you say?
Yeah, I don't think it's too far off. I'm sure someone said it was about a week after episode 8, but I don't think it's that quick. But I don't know if that's true.
No, and I think I watched Alex's Star Wars Explained video, and like he goes into detail of like I think roughly of like where he thinks these things take place, and I think it was like 3rd on the list. But no, it takes place like relatively early on, and I don't know. Do you want to run a recap on like what that book was about?
Yeah, basically it's set after The Last Jedi, and it's the story of how the Resistance goes from 12 people on the Millennium Falcon to how they start rebuilding to the point where we'll see them in the Rise of Skywalker. So you meet they bring back a few characters from they obviously bring back Wedge Antilles, which is massive. I love that. They've brought back Wedge Antilles. They bring back Nora Wexley from the Aftermath trilogy, who was Wedge's wife, and also the mother of Snap Wexley. And then we go to, and they also bring back Ransom Casterfell.
Yeah, from Bloodline.
From Bloodline, yeah, which I didn't see coming at all. That really shocked me.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty solid appearance because I grew to quite like his character in that book by the end of it.
I wonder if we'll see him in the Rise of Skywalker. I wonder if he'll.
What was that? Sorry.
I wonder if we'll see him in the Rise of Skywalker.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that really, that's a good observation there. Like I would hope that it would be a cool appearance for sure. Like especially if they have like some sort of command center where they have a bunch of the Resistance leaders, around a table, similar to like what we got in episode 4 with the trench run, and all the leaders are standing around that table, or in Rogue One as well before the Scarif mission. Yeah, it would be cool to have him kind of in the background, and then maybe in the visual dictionary just confirm like, yeah, that's Ransom Casterfell right there. That would be really cool. But
yeah, I was going to say about the visual dictionary, because you can stick all these people in the film, and then obviously people like us will know who they are because super fans we'd have to. But then you go through the visual dictionary and go, oh, that was Nora Wexley. This was this character, and that would be.
And exactly, and we would actually get like a live action appearance that we can now use, rather than just book descriptors and stuff. But more cameos that showed up was the characters from Battlefront 2. It was Iden Versio's daughter Zay, and
I forgot about Zay.
And Shriv, Shriv the Duros. Yeah, so they showed up as well. Yeah, that's right. So so just to add on what you were saying, this book really had like 3 missions going on, like almost like 3 mini missions. Early on in the book, the Resistance is trying to find a place to hide out as they rebuild. And very similar to Empire Strikes Back. I got a very Empire Strikes Back feeling like when I read this book early on. And so I think as they're kind of rebuilding the Resistance, they send out 3 different, I guess, mission squads to do what they need to do to gather leaders and to gather like forces and stuff like that. So one of them, help me out here if
one group goes to Bracca, which is out the Jedi Fallen, which is a tie into Jedi Fallen Order. They go to Bracca to try and recover like New Republic ships.
That was
led by Shriv. That's led by Shriv.
Right. Yeah. And actually, that one was actually quite interesting because having just played Fallen Order and stuff, we got talk about these riggers and stuff like that on these shipyards that were dismantling ships and such. And we had a lot more descriptor about like what a rigger does in this book. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, there was like 4 types of jobs. There was riggers, and there was I can't remember the actual names of the jobs now, but there was 4 different jobs you could do. At the scrapyards on Bracca, which have been overtaken by the First Order to dismantle New Republic ships, which means there must be still some New Republic pieces out there on the board, because they've obviously been sent to Bracca to dismantle the ships.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the New Republic, just like as a side note, that latest Mandalorian episode, I was so glad that they finally showed off a logo for the New Republic. Like not once have we seen a New Republic logo until this past episode. I was so grateful that they actually recycled the expanded universe New Republic logo. I think we can thank Dave Filoni for that.
I think we saw the New Republic logo in Resistance, the first episode.
Oh, really?
I think we did. Yeah, I think because the first episode of Resistance, there's 3 New Republic X-Wings.
Oh, I'm going to need to rewatch that. Yeah, because like it's very... rare though. I think the appearances come up, and at one point in the books they did do a descriptor to the New Republic logo, and it was described a little differently than what it actually looks like. They described it with like a sun coming out the back. So if you do Google New Republic logo, I think there is on the canon Wikipedia page, I believe the logo it's been like drawn out by somebody, and it kind of looks a little different, but it does look how it's described in that book. And I forget if it's one of the Aftermath books or what, but I'm on it says New Republic Wikipedia page on the canon tab, and the icon that's displayed there, it's basically the Rebel crest. It's blue, and then behind it, it's got this yellow kind of star sun. Yeah, that kind of radiates behind it. So I thought it was interesting that they kind of retconned that a little bit coming from a canon book, and they were just like, you know what, screw it. Let's just make the New Republic logo the one that people are familiar with. So yeah, I was glad that they did that.
I like the New Republic like security droids as well. I thought they were a nice touch.
Yeah, that was a really nice touch for sure. And then the Mandalorian's relationship between his hate for droids and and then being all too happy to take them down despite his hesitance for that job. But so the second and third missions of this book, Resistance Reborn, there was another mission. It was Snap Wexley. He's been tasked by Poe to go and collect Wedge Antilles and Nora, his parents, because I guess they want leaders in the Resistance, people who can gather other people and kind of, light the spark that lights the fire that, so on and so forth. Yeah. So that was a thing. And then there was also a bit of a heist mission going on. So Poe and Finn go undercover to that really high class party. and
on, Corellia.
Yeah, that's right, on Corellia, along with, so they're on Corellia, and they're after a list which contains prisoners of the First Order, prisoners that have people that the Resistance wants, including that on that list is Ransom Casterfo. And the other mission that's happening simultaneously on Corellia, there was something else going on there. What was it again? There was two teams on Corellia. There was
one was to break the prisoners out, wasn't it? And one was to obtain.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Something? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, and then they had a bit of a sideline story of this First Order officer and being basically just a scumbag to his.
He was a terrible person.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and his 15-year-old girl helper, the assistant, that just beat on her, and yeah, that was a terrible. But. Yeah, terrible bad guy. I mean, it makes a good villain, just this average officer, but just to show the raw cruelty of how some of these people are, and then how some of them are actually affected and they're just on the wrong side by accident, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there was. It really kind of paints the picture of okay, yeah, there used to also be this empire that every kid in the galaxy with no future would just go to the academy, to learn how to be a TIE pilot or whatever. Because that is the government, it's their military, and that's just the thing to do. But whether they like the empire or not, it's just kind of the way of life, right?
A lot of people went into the empire, didn't there? And what they were about, and that's why a lot of people defected to the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the ones who really truly saw the evil behind the, I mean, it's not hard for us to see the evil behind the what most people in the galaxy would just see it as a mask. It's oh yeah, it's just the government. They can be twats sometimes, but yeah, we watch Star Wars, we're oh yeah, the Empire, it's led by the Emperor, he's a Sith Lord, the Empire is evil, right? We take it at very face value, but it's cool to see some of these books and stuff going into a deeper thought process of what it's actually like to be on that side, and how some of these people actually end up defecting. People like Iden Versio and Del Meeko. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, Resistance Reborn, cool book. Very much a book that featured Poe Dameron quite a bit. I want to say this is an amazing follow-up to people who really got invested with Poe Dameron over the comics, the Poe Dameron comic series. This is a really great conclusion to a lot of his story that's been going on, because it kind of paints him as a leader by the end of the book. And I
really liked his arc of how the regret he feels for what he did to Holdo and that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That was really good. Yeah, because I feel that's very much kind of passed aside by the end of the movie. It's almost it's not, you don't really see that the guilt that he's got.
And he has a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, in this book, he's really, he really does kind of reflect on that, and people judge him for it, and yet he embraces the judgment and kind of says hey, everyone makes mistakes, we all make mistakes. It really kind of brought me back to that conversation that Jyn had with the people that decide to go with her to Scarif, and Diego Luna's character, Cassian Andor, he basically says hey, in short, he's we're all basically just scum, some of us are, we've all done terrible things, we're all assassins and smugglers and whatever, but this is what we believe and this is what we're going to do. So it kind of reminded me of that whole kind of inspirational moment that happened in that film, but here we are again witnessing it later, when the Resistance is as desperate as the rebellion was at that point in time, and here we are again seeing a moment that's very similar. So that was some really cool parallel that happened there.
I love the scene in that book where he's obviously saying what he did, and he was apologizing for what he did, and then Leia stands up and says, "Look, my father was Darth Vader. Does anyone want to question my loyalty?" And then
nobody answers. I thought that was really good. Yeah.
She's literally my father's the worst person in the universe for pretty much everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting though, because people were judging her in the Bloodline book, that was the whole kind of idea behind that the plot of that book, but the galaxy has moved on from that and kind of reaccepted her as a leader and as a good person, and that the sins of the father don't exactly reflect upon the offspring sort of thing. So yeah,
definitely, yeah.
Point. But yeah, no. So that's kind of covers Resistance Reborn a little bit. Did you end up reading the Spark of what's it called again?
I haven't read Spark of Resistance. No, I still need to read that, to be honest. But it's a little junior.
Yeah,
novel.
It's junior novel.
I haven't had the chance to read that yet.
So yeah, is it okay if I run through that with you just a little bit? Yeah, there's actually not a crazy amount to spoil in this book. Unlike, I mean, if you think Resistance Reborn didn't have like crazy amount of insanely great reveals, this one had even less. Yeah, it was basically like couple, I want to say between like weeks and maybe months. I don't know if it takes place before or after Resistance Reborn. It might take place before. It very much kind of featured Rose, Finn, Poe, and Rey as friends on the Falcon, on a mission, answering a call for help sort of deal. And they receive a distress call from the planet Minfar. And, Rey and the others basically decide like, okay, they can't, ignore a call for help, especially if it's against the First Order. But they weigh their options because it could be a trap since the distress call comes through on a Resistance broadcast, I believe. And but they basically they're greeted by this alien species who's kind of previously suffered under the Empire with this weapon. And that the Empire created to essentially kind of, in a way, like mind control. And at the same time in the story, the First Order is leading an excavation or something to find this secret weapon that basically mind controls. I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly or not. I'm pretty sure this is how it worked out. But in the end, like, it's almost useless because it mind controls just that one species, I think. At least I think that's what I gathered from this. And so it's basically just like a, kind of like it felt very Indiana Jones-ish at times, the quest for like this mysterious like lost weapon. And it was okay. It was kind of a whatever book. It does fill the gap a little bit. I think the biggest thing to take away from this book, the plot didn't really add a whole lot, but the biggest thing to take away was that these characters are all developing relationships with each other, which is something that we haven't had in the movie so far. Especially having them as a trio plus one being Rose. Rey and Finn and Poe and Rose and Chewie and BB-8 is on this mission kind of thing. So yeah, it is kind of cool just to if you want to invest in those characters, like this book does a pretty good job at like giving you a story that you can read and have those characters interacting with each other and basically working for the Resistance, like on behalf of the Resistance. So yeah, so that was kind of cool. It is worth mentioning in the Resistance Reborn book, we got a little bit about, do you want to tell people about Finn's relationship status?
Oh yeah. It kind of says that him and Rose are a thing, they're just friends. And he says that him and Rey are a thing, they're just friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a bit of flirtation with Poe as well. So he's very out there at the moment, Finn. Like, we don't really know where his head's going, where he wants to go with that type of thing. But it's definitely. Apparently, him and Rose are just friends. Him and Rey are just friends, and that's how it is. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a good thing to add though, for sure, because I think a lot of people are kind of resenting the kiss still from episode 8, that out of the blue moment, and it's an encouraging thing for anyone who's worried that they might see a Rose Finn awkward relationship going on, that it's probably not going to happen. So yeah, just something worth mentioning.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
There was also I'm going to skip over a lot of the junior stuff. Like there's a few young reader books. There's one called Star Wars We Are the Resistance. It was like a golden book, like super young readers. Yeah, I'm going to skip over.
I haven't read any of them.
No, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these things which I wouldn't even consider, like, if you were to make a timeline of canon stuff, like I probably wouldn't even drop these on there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they're
like
fun for kids, obviously.
they're fun for kids, yeah, for sure. Like, you know, if you're a level 2 reader and want to read about the First Order villains, you know, there's a book for that, and includes stickers and whatever. So, you know, it's young readers books. You know, there's stuff for them too. 3 things there: Resistance heroes, First Order villains, and We Are the Resistance. So there's a few things there, but I'm just gonna skip over that stuff and jump to the short story comic that came out 4 issues long, Star Wars Allegiance. Did you end up reading that?
I did, yeah. I did read it, yeah.
Okay, thank goodness, because I haven't actually read this. Would you be able to take the wheel on this? Walk us through what this one was about.
It basically tells a story of how the Mon Calamari get brought back into the fight against the First Order. Because at the start of the comic, obviously, it can't be too long after The Last Jedi. The Resistance, which is basically the 12 people on the Millennium Falcon, are hiding on the Anoat, like a junk moon of the Anoat planet, I think. I think it's Anoat. And obviously Leia says, right, I'm going out for a mission. And people are like, well, you can't really go out. And she's like, listen, I'm going out. I'll take Rey with me, and I'll take Rey and Rose, C-3PO, go with Leia to Mon Cala. And the twist at the end of the first issue is they get to Mon Cala. Obviously, Leia goes out of the Millennium Falcon, and she's greeted by Mon Calamari, who say, Princess Leia, all the death and destruction you brought to our seas, why shouldn't we just kill you on sight? And that's how the first issue ends, which is a massive shock, because obviously you think the Mon Cala are big in the rebellion, but obviously 30 years has passed. Yeah, they're not too pleased to have found out that Princess Leia's father was Darth Vader, who obviously. If you've read the Burning Seas comic by Charles Soule, the Vader one, he basically lays waste to Mon Cala, trying to find a.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good connection, actually. Yes. So that's the first issue then.
That was the first issue, and then the second, third, and fourth. In fact, you get little interludes as well with what the First Order's doing. So how the first issue opens up, there's a distress signal sent by this planet. I can't remember what the species called, but the First Order, it was a Resistance distress call, and the First Order picked it up, and the First Order go to that planet and basically just destroy the whole planet, not like physical, but destroy all the cities and that. And even the species, I can't remember what they're called, are saying, look, we're neutral. We've always been neutral. Even the Empire respected our neutrality. Yeah. And the General Hux is like, tough. Sorry, you've sided with the Resistance, and they just destroy that planet. And in the second issue, you see the Fondor shipyards from the Battlefront 2 campaign.
Oh, that's cool.
And Kylo Ren's there. And basically, the First Order have took over the Fondor shipyards because there's Kylo Ren's talking to the head of the Fondor shipyards, and he says, "Oh, we've always been neutral. Like even when the Empire was in charge, they didn't run the shipyards. We just allowed them. Like we obviously did the work for the Empire, but they didn't run the shipyards." Yeah. And Kylo Ren chops the guy's head off and says, "Tough." Says it's the First Orders now. so he kills that guy, and then it goes. The second issue goes into Leia trying to convince the Mon Cala. She meets Aftab Akbar, which is obviously the son of Admiral Akbar. They go to a place in Mon Cala where they pay the respects to Admiral Akbar. So everyone in The Last Jedi was annoyed that Admiral Akbar kind of got a bit of a cheap death. Yeah. They pay respects to Admiral Akbar in this comic.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's really nice. Because I know a lot of people were pretty upset about that when that character died, and it's like, what? Like Admiral Akbar's dead? I didn't even know he was in the movie. Like did we see him at all in that film? Like
yeah, I think he says something about there's something coming out of hyperspace, but he doesn't get a lot of lines.
No, yeah. Is it because the original actor passed away before the filming? Is that what it was? There was something about that.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know. There was I thought there was something about how the guy that played Admiral Akbar had passed away or something, so his lines were limited and played by a voice double or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going crazy or not about that, but okay. So this is where would you say like this kind of takes place? Is that?
I say it can't take place that long after The Last Jedi. It can't, because there's still obviously you see in Resistance Reborn. There's not all the people you see in Resistance Reborn, so I think this must take place first.
Yeah,
and you do get a nice tie-in as well, because there's the monk Aftab Akbar is trying to defend Leia, and on the other hand there's the Quarren, who are the other species on Mon Cala, who've always been a bit sketchy.
Oh yeah.
It's No Sarai from the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Who's in league with the Separatists.
Yeah, that's right.
And then turns good in the end after he's caused a lot of problems.
Is he still around?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. The guy in the comics called No Sarai, so I assume it's No Sarai from the Clone Wars.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So he's there, and he's obviously arguing against Leia, and they go see the king, and the king's not too willing to help the resistance at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the revelation of Leia being Darth Vader being Leia's father, and obviously their feelings towards Vader.
Yeah, that's something similar that we had with in Resistance Reborn. Like there was they went to the Twi'leks for help, and they were met with some resistance there. They have that weird militia going on, the Ryloth Defense Force.
Yeah, which is not based out of the capital unless it was like kind of secret. Yeah,
it was kind of like it feels like similar relationship between like the Resistance and the New Republic. The Ryloth Defense Force is kind of like, the government like gives them a nod, but they're not like official of any kind.
Not official, yeah. They're not part of like the Ryloth official military structure.
Yeah. So but yeah, at first, like, the first person that greets them is the son of that one Twi'lek who's old friends with Leia. He meets kind of Yendor. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Have we seen him before?
I'm pretty sure he's in one of the Aftermath books, or he's in Bloodline. One of the other. He's definitely appeared before.
Okay, yeah. I thought we'd seen him before, heard of him before, but I couldn't place it. So, but it's his son that kind of meets the invite with a little hesitancy, to join the Resistance. So yeah, it's definitely like, I guess what they're trying to paint the picture is like, it's not an easy time for the Resistance. It's like, it definitely seems like they're actually having a harder time getting allies than the rebellion did. With fighting this battle, and they're still like going off of scraps. So from the trailer, with that shot that they released with all those ships in the background, it makes me really question, like, okay, how does it even get to this point? Like it's a really inspiring scene to see that like so many people are chipping in to help bring down the First Order, but at the same time it's like, where did they all come from? Because you get so many ships from across like so many different eras of time, and it's like, okay, like that's really cool. I want to know the story of like how these people all came together, and I'm just worried that we're not going to get that story in the film. So that's why I was kind of hoping, like when I read Reborn, like Resistance Reborn, that we got a little more kind of like joining of alliances, and that just didn't really happen too much. So yeah, just like if you were to speculate on it, like what do you think would happen?
With that scene in the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, just like where do you think like all these people like come in? Like, do you think like we're gonna get a book that explains this, or are we gonna see it like in the movie take place?
I think they'll go into, because obviously you've seen all the TV spots they've released, and they're obviously saying good people will follow if we lead them. I think it'll come to a point where the Resistance goes to make a final stand against the First Order, because obviously it's not going well, and maybe that's when Leia sends out one last inspirational plea. Because at the end of Resistance Reborn, Wedge Antilles goes off to find other people, so maybe he brings them and that. But I can't wait to see that scene.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be pretty cool.
That's gonna be like the Avengers Endgame moment where they all come back.
Yeah, just like out of all the portals.
As well,
yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, and like as we've seen from the trailer, like the Ghost is a part of that crew as well.
I really hope we see inside that cockpit.
Yeah, oh yeah, I really hope so because so far in Rogue One, like we saw it flying around here and there, and then parked outside of the big Masasi temple.
And she got a mention. On the.
Yeah, she did get a mention. Yeah, General Syndulla. Yeah, so it would be really cool to actually like see her in like live action. That would be awesome.
You don't have to explain it. All you got to do is put a green skin Twi'lek at the seat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Then you can put it in the visual dictionary after.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just even if we got like a far view, like kind of glimpse of like the person driving it, sort of thing, right? Like, yeah, that's a good point. Like that would be really.
Obviously, for me and you will go insane because we'll be like, oh my god, that's heavy. But you don't like the average moviegoer hasn't seen Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly it. That's exactly it though. Like for people who went and saw Endgame who didn't see every single Marvel movie that came before, like they designed that movie in a way that you could still watch it and enjoy your time there. And the people that were freaking out about little things that showed up and characters that showed up that the average fan might not recognize or remember, it did them a lot of service, but it didn't take away any meaning from like the overall film and the story that they were trying to tell.
No, you didn't have to stop to explain it and go, well, this is this character, this is that character, and this has been over here.
Yeah.
No, it was just, these are all these characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it would be super cool to get like some appearances from this person or that person, and they don't even need to have lines, but just like you said, like have the visual dictionary kind of like fill the holes and like catch people up on like, oh yeah, that's this person. But for all the fans that have been keeping up with the material, just to have that moment of like seeing them live action on the screen, that would be amazing. That would be so cool.
It's a good payoff in it because you read all the books and you read all the everything, all the comics and that. To see this person on screen, you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one thing that that not as many people are speculating about. I think like the big kind of cameo of whether we're gonna see like such and such a Force ghost or not is like a larger topic, but the small characters like who's Hera Syndulla's son, Jason Syndulla. Yeah, like even like an appearance from him or just like somebody that looks like him on screen that can later confirm like, yeah, it's like a guy with green hair. Like, yeah, that's him. It's obviously Jason Syndulla. Yeah. So for like the people that have seen the shows, like that would be cool. And he doesn't need to have any lines. It's just like a walk by, just some random guy, that has green hair and kind of looks like, half Twi'lek-ish person. Like it would be such a major fan service, and it doesn't even require that much work. It just requires like the right people telling the right costume designers to set up this extra as that person or something, right? Like
definitely,
yeah, that's what I'm really hoping for out of this movie, that we get a lot of that kind of servicing. But
I'm just waiting to see Palpatine move. I can't wait.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, like, did you watch that TV spot that came out
with Kylo? I did.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Oh man,
I've seen the stuff.
That's actually like I think the best thing that I've seen out of all these TV spots. That I feel like there's one every day almost, but that's like so
creepy.
Yeah, so creepy. But it feels so many like questions that I've got. Like I'm not one to avoid trailers due to spoilers. Like I'm soaking it up like kind of like a sponge. Like every time a new TV spot out, I'm just like, yep, let's watch it and see what they reveal next. And it just makes me want to see the movie more, which is what I want as well, because I want to be excited about this.
When they played the Duel of Fates in that, that was amazing. That was like, no way. I hope that's in the film. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hope that that track actually makes its way into the movie. I think I talked about this with Ben on our last Mandalorian roundtable or discussion. But we had it happen with Force Awakens, where that awesome trailer music showed up, and then it just never showed up in the movie. But there's been times where it's like they make a track or like some sort of music track for the trailer specifically, and then it just doesn't make its way into the film, but it's just such a great track. So it's a cool version of Duel of Fates, and I would love to see it in the movie for sure.
That going back to that Palpatine thing, like I really want to know what that is. It looks so dark side, Agent Sith.
Yeah. Well, have you been following any of the rumors about like the names of these places?
Yeah, what's I can't remember. Yeah, I've heard the name of where this place might be. It's like
Yeah. So like the
Gol,
rumor has it that it's called like Exegol.
Exegol. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And I guess it's rumored to be the hiding place that the emperor's been, I guess, this entire time, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And yeah, but the biggest part for me out of this TV spot was when he kind of like speaks to Kylo like through his head, how he's been every voice that he's ever heard, basically toying with his brain, across, pulling him from the light to the dark via Snoke, and then giving him access to Vader's helmet, and then appearing to him in his head as the voice of Darth Vader, his grandfather as well. So yeah, like he's the man of many masks. He is the Phantom Menace, and
I've seen that theory, which is amazing. Like, it's gonna go back all the way to the first one where he's been the Phantom Menace all this year.
Exactly. He's been the Phantom Menace all this time. So yeah, it's super cool to see it kind of like come full circle like that. And I was listening to last night. I actually, like, just before I went to bed, I did a quick coverage of the interview that JJ gave to ABC's News, the popcorn thing. It was like a 20-minute thing. But did you watch that as well?
I have not. No, I haven't.
Okay, there's some pretty good stuff in there. I ended up playing it on the show. If you want to listen to that, it's there. But it's also on YouTube, and he's just chatting with the host there at that show, and he does give like a little in-depth detail about like the making of this film and some of the inspiration that went into it, and he does chat about like he brings up midichlorians as a topic, and he brings up like his conversation with George, I believe, and Chris Terrio. And I think the most fascinating thing to me was that he does kind of get into like his relationship with the prequels and the relationship between this movie and that trilogy, and how he, beyond his own fandom and liking for and preference for like the originals, that he actually did say like this, like basically, aside from my own like preferences, like this did have to be a movie that wraps up all previous 8.
Oh yeah, I've seen. Said he's going to wrap up all.
Yeah, so he basically just comes out and straight up says it, and I'm really hoping that like this is, very clear when we go to watch the movie, and not so much as like, yeah, that's a battle droid standing in the background, because we saw that. yeah, exactly. Like we saw that little tidbit. Like I don't want him to say this and then in reference to like the shots where we get, prequel era ships in the background, and then like, a broken down battle droid standing back there. Like I don't want him to like, I don't want him to say that this is going to wrap up all previous 8 films and then just have little cameos of things from those films. Like I want them to actually take elements from those movies and then bring them into this latest one.
Well, I think 100% we're going to see Anakin Skywalker. We have to. Mm. 100%, he's got to be in it. It would be weird if he's not in it. Like, so
it'd be weird. It would be super.
Like, we're wrapping up the whole Skywalker saga, but we're not going to have Hayden Christensen in it. And like, he's been a lot more active in like the Star Wars thing, like this past year.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be. That's one of the things I really. I'm not going to say like if they didn't do it, I'd be annoyed and all that type of stuff. But it would be like, really, like
it'd be a really disheartening moment to like watch the end credits and then just kind of like
we got
think like hey, like like I'm almost expecting a post-credit scene where he shows up, but like that would be pretty unfortunate. I think if they didn't, that would be such a missed opportunity.
Did you see the interview that JJ did with like a Japanese entertainment company?
No, I don't think I did see that one. What was that one about?
This was because basically he's talking to this host and he goes, oh, by the way, who's your favorite character in Star Wars?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, oh, it's Ahsoka Tano. And he goes, and she goes, oh, sorry, it's not someone from like the live action films. And he goes, oh, so apparently this is a quote. He goes, oh, Ahsoka Tano. And then he goes, you might want to watch the Rise of Skywalker really carefully.
Oh, no way.
And she's like what? And he's like, just watch the film. But I don't know whether that means Ahsoka.
That's cool. Okay, well, I hope he's not referring to like the Ghost, because I don't really associate Ahsoka with the Ghost. But yeah, that's a really interesting thing to say. Yeah,
it's a tease, like
That's a really big tease. Yeah. Oh man,
that's awesome. I haven't seen the actual interview, but I've read the quote, and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, you have to watch the film, obviously." But
Wow. I have heard like I've heard rumors that like voice over appearances might show up like that, like people like Ezra Bridger and Ashley Eckstein, as coming back, and maybe in that massive like space battle, like maybe we'll hear some voiceover similar to what we got in Rogue One with calling on General Syndulla, but maybe a little more direct.
If Ezra shows up, like if you hear like, oh, this is Ezra Bridger, I'm like, where have you been? Stop the film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's like a story that Dave Filoni will eventually tell for sure. Like these are his characters. It's like, this is similar to how, this sequel trilogy is really kind of at this point, a lot of it's owned by JJ. The animated series are really much like they're very clearly owned by Dave Filoni and his inspirations that go into it. I hope that eventually when he comes up with a good story to tell for those characters, like, Thrawn and Ezra and Ahsoka, that like, it's told in a way that we can all enjoy it.
Well, he's definitely planning that because he puts out the odd drawing here and there on Twitter and Instagram of like, oh, well, this is what it could look like.
Yeah.
I remember he put one of Ahsoka and Sabine in like a blizzard on Instagram. That'd be cool. Yeah, I guess he's kind of like plotting out his next story. What I do wonder though is whether or not it'll be directly like artistically inspired by Rebels, or if it'll kind of look more like Clone Wars, or if it'll have its own artistic flair to it. I think they change it a bit, but I don't think they change it too much. Just to follow on from Rebels.
Yeah, well, that way they can recycle a lot of the digital assets as well.
Yeah, which obviously makes sense, really.
Yeah, huge money saver.
I know Disney's not short of money, but
they with Rebels, it feels like they cut the budget for sure. But Clone Wars, what I heard about Clone Wars is that it actually didn't generate a ton of revenue. Like it was essentially just like a passion project for George Lucas to do. Like he kind of like how when he made the sequels for Star Wars, like he invested all his own coin into it, and then it got big enough that obviously he made like a ton of money afterwards. But like Clone Wars, like at times, like I think it was very much like for the audience that was watching it, like the amount of money that went into it definitely, the return wasn't as big as it could have been if they went cheaper. And it really shows that they didn't. Like as the seasons go on, it just gets better and better and better. And
and
it really shows.
The Clone Wars film, it looks a bit like
it looked a bit
PlayStation 2 cutscene.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
It looked a bit cheap. Yeah,
and then obviously by the time Series 6 rolled around, it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but especially the third season onwards is where they really kind of get their foot in the door. Yeah, it really finds its place in and starts to kind of get a larger audience at that point as well. But but I guess that pretty much covers all the journey to the Rise of Skywalker. Man, thanks for coming on and talking all about this stuff with me. It's great of you to give up your time to do that.
No problem. I enjoy talking Star Wars with like nice people who want to talk to me about it.
It's always a pleasure. I always look forward to chatting with you, and we'll do this again at some point as well. But if people want to follow you on social media, like what are your handles?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I've just changed my handle to just Star Wars Iain. That's both on Twitter and Instagram. That's just where I am. So if you're on Instagram, it's at Star Wars Iain.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, Iain. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again at a later point.
Thank you.
All right, see ya. Bye.
Iain, thank you so much for coming back on the show again and chatting all about this stuff with me, because you're the man to do it with. And for all of those of you who are listening up until this point in the podcast, give Iain a follow. He tweets out awesome stuff every day, all Star Wars related. He's got some great posts, and he's a fun guy and a genuine fan, and truly somebody to chat about Star Wars if there is anyone to chat about Star Wars with. So thank you, Iain, for your time and coming on again. It's always a pleasure to have you. we've got a few changes for the schedule. Mandalorian comes out this Wednesday as opposed to the Friday. That's because of the new movie coming out on Friday. So we're all stoked about that. I know I've got my tickets for the fan release on Thursday at 5 p.m. So, I mean, if you're going to be at a fan release on Thursday, awesome. Maybe see you there. We'll be doing a roundtable that evening and publishing it out as soon as we can. So stay tuned for that. And the roundtable for The Mandalorian on Wednesday. So this week has been crazy. I know this weekend has been crazy. I think we dropped like 3 episodes this past weekend. But yeah, stay tuned for all the great stuff coming. Follow Iain at Twitter at Iain Star Wars, I think he said. Follow our account, SW Escape Podcast. Email us, theescapepod@outlook.com. Shoot us your questions, comments, feedback. Share this comment with your friend, or share this podcast with your friends, because this is how it stays alive. Just more people listening. And other than that, I will see you all next time very soon. May the Force be with you.